Well, hello, my lovelies. It's Janet Perez again with the Painted Saguaro, coming to you with Paint Couture paints to show you how to create a whole bunch of different techniques. You can use one or all of them, but I wanted to show you how to use texture, iFlex trim, decoupage, Crackle, lime wash, and even a tone-on-tone ghost stencil. So stick around and watch me work. First off, I painted this piece with a primer. It's the Premium Plus 2-in-1 primer. And then I grabbed myself the 4147 iFlex trim molding. This stuff is the coolest stuff ever, you guys. If you've never tried it, what are you waiting for? I'm telling you, all you need is a heat gun or a hair dryer and a roll of this stuff, and you are going to town. This is revolutionary, folks. I've seen this trim used in a different fashion, so many different ways. I'm using it just as is, and I'm putting it on the top two drawers and on both sides of this little dresser to just add some Mediterranean flair. And I'm using the Tight Bond Quick and Thick multi-surface glue to adhere it to the dresser top. So I cut it with a razor blade, and I'm just pressing it on and holding it there for a second, and then using my heat gun just to make sure that it's contacting at all points to the wood. And with that Quick and Thick, you really don't need to hold it. You don't need to tape it. It sticks, it adheres, and boom shakalaka, you're ready to rock and roll. So as you can see, the front drawers on this piece are slightly beveled, and that's what makes this iFlex product so revolutionary, because you don't have to worry about the curve. You can put this wood product on there and it will conform right to the shape of your drawer. So I'm measuring it, I'm cutting it. Well, I'm heating it first, obviously, and I've got glue on my fingers because I spread that glue with my fingers. I like to be able to feel the density of the glue. I like to make sure I'm getting it thoroughly across the entire surface of the backing, and so that's how I spread it. I know people can use a piece of wood or whatever, but I like to use my fingers. So now that that molding is on there, what I'm going to do is I am going to start painting it, and I'm going to use a chip brush, and I start off with Barn Door Red. It is one of the Paint Couture chalk style paints, and I'm just kind of going in a random fashion over the trim and covering it in a willy-nilly fashion. I'm not worrying about getting it on the primer because that primer is going to be covered with a couple different layers of paint when I'm done with this step, and making sure that I get a lot of different colors on this iFlex trim molding. So once I get the red on all four pieces, the next thing that I am going to do is I am going to add Firelight, which is a gorgeous orange color. And it is also one of the Paint Couture colors. It is a self-leveling mineral paint from Paint Couture. And it is a really beautiful deep orange color. It's one of my favorite colors, actually. And I don't know if you've checked it out yet, but on the All Paint Products page, you'll see a lot of the content creators for Paint Couture. We have selected some of our favorite products where you can basically click a bundle, and they're all right around $50 for the complete bundle, where you can create a piece using our favorite color combinations and product combinations. And Firelight is one of my favorite colors. So you might want to check that out. I'm going to have a link to my affiliate link on all of my postings for this video. So check it out when you get a chance. Anyway, so I'm adding the Firelight, and then the next color I'm adding is the Caribbean Coral, or Caribbean Coral, however you want to pronounce it. And it is very similar in color to Firelight, but I like it because it's slightly more peachy pink, and it just adds a nice variation to the Firelight. If you didn't want to purchase that similar color, you wouldn't have to. You could just use Firelight and you would be perfectly fine. But you can see it's a little bit brighter here, and it just adds just another dimension and depth to this trim molding. So I love it. And I'm blotting with the shop towel, which adds a little bit of extra texture to the piece. Now I'm adding a little bit of Tuscan Sun, and I'm just kind of dry brushing that over the top to bring out the highlight of the molding. And I love, love, love the effects that I'm getting on this. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. This trim is probably the favorite of mine that I've used so far of all the iFlex trim pieces and appliques. So now what I'm doing is I am grabbing myself some of the pitch black chalk style paint and some more some Saltwash, and I am mixing it to be the consistency of brownie batter. So I grabbed about 2 scoops of the Saltwash and about half a cup of the pitch black paint and a chip brush, and I'm going to town here. And I'm just stippling it over the piece. Now you'll see here in just 1 second, I'm going to start going right over that brightly colored paint. Now, special note, I let that paint completely dry overnight. So don't do this over the wet paint, but make sure that it's 100% dry. And what I'm doing is I misted it with my mister bottle, and then I'm wiping it back with some wet baby wipes, okay? And I'm using clean wipe. So once it gets dirty, I throw it on the floor to pick up later, and I'm grabbing a clean one. So you want to keep changing out your baby wipes and getting clean ones every few minutes or few seconds. And you can see that I'm starting to reveal that color beneath that black. Isn't that amazing? So that black is embedded down into the details of this mold, and the colors are popping through, and I'm in heaven because this is exactly the look I was going for. What do you guys think? Do you love this look? It's so Mediterranean, so southwestern, so Spanish style. I dig it. It's totally what I was looking for this piece. So you just keep working it until you get it where you want it. So now I'm going to continue painting the entire piece except for the top in this black chalk paint mixed with the Saltwash. And you can see there the texture. Now what I'm doing, I've got the piece leaning up against another dresser against the wall. So it's at sort of a 45-degree angle because I am partially disabled and I cannot lay a piece flat. I can't lift it back up because of my back and my knees. And then I'm adding some some Saltwash to the black in order to create a resist, okay? And then I mist it so that it's wet, and when it dries, it will be rock hard. So what you want to do, and you want to do this to the drawers as well, you want to clump on some of that Saltwash, not cover the entire piece. You want to do it sporadically. And you can see there I've got it on the drawers, and it is already dried on the drawers, okay? So on the drawers, I had them down and out off the piece, so I was able to actually apply the Saltwash exactly how I wanted it. And if you touch that Saltwash and it's still powdery, you want to add more water because you want to make sure that it's rock hard and it's dry. Once it's completely dry, what I'm doing now is I'm mixed Farmhouse linen with some more Saltwash so that it again is a brownie batter consistency. And I'm stippling again over that black chalk paint and over that Saltwash resist. And what I'm doing here is I'm sort of dabbing it off of the trim molding. I want a hint of the white on there, but I don't want it to cover up any of the stuff that I've already done to that trim molding. I just want a hint of the white on there to add another layer of interest to it. And if I don't clean the edges off, I'm going to have to go back in and sand them, and then that will affect my layers of paint. So I'm wiping the edges of my drawers off as I go. And for me, having the drawers out to do this is much better and cleaner than trying to do this with the drawers in the piece, because your drawers will get stuck when you're doing a Saltwash technique. So I don't recommend doing that. So I did the entire piece in the Farmhouse linen. As you can see here, the entire frame and the drawers are put back in. And now this is my decoupage paper. It's from Whimsykel Designs, and it's called Untamed. I mist it with my mister bottle, and that gets rid of all the wrinkles. Plus it helps it be a little more forgiving when you're applying your decoupage paste. So for the decoupage adherence, I'm using my Paint Couture Decoupage Gel in matte, and I am applying it again with a chip brush. If you haven't noticed already, all I have used as a tool so far in this application of everything is a chip brush. You don't need to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on brushes for any of this technique that I've done here, with the exception of a few of the final finishing touches. So like your top coat and whatnot. So I'm applying the decoupage gel here, and you'll see as I let the piece down, I've got it on here a little bit crooked, which I don't realize at this point until I start working my way down, and it's too late to correct at that point. But it's because I was off to the side of it and I didn't see that I put it on crooked, but it doesn't really matter. I've never put a piece of decoupage paper on crooked before, but it's because I was doing it from the side so that you guys could see what I was doing. And it's not a big deal. I can trim that edge off after I get the decoupage paper on. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm using a piece of cellophane. And if you've never used cellophane to apply decoupage paper, oh my gosh, you guys, use it, do it. It is a lifesaver. It will prevent you from getting tears. It will prevent you from getting a resist by using your hand. And you'll see that the combination of spritzing your paper and using the cellophane makes your paper so more forgiving. You can see that I'm lifting the paper on occasion if I get a wrinkle or a fold in the paper, and it's not tearing on me at all. I'm using that small spreader that has the velvet edge on it to get into those crevices between the drawers. That is a tremendous tool to have as well. But primarily I'm using simply the cellophane, and the saran wrap is all I use. And it eliminates the wrinkles. It prevents you from getting tears because you're not using your hand and getting that resist. If you want to use a brayer, put a piece of cellophane between your brayer and the paper, and that will prevent tears. I highly recommend it. So do it. And I'm just working my way down and getting this all the way down. I think I had one small wrinkle towards the bottom, and that was it. And that's simply because I can't get on the floor because of my disability. I know a lot of y'all can. I'm not able to I can get down on the floor. I can't get back up off the floor. That's my issue. So I have to sit in a chair when I do any furniture. So that's my lot in life. But you can see here that the paper went on pretty smoothly. I mean, obviously this is 4 times the speed, but it was seamless and I had no tears, I had no issues, and it was a beautiful application. So Saran wrap is my answer on getting a really great application in conjunction with the Decoupage gel, which is super forgiving. What I do next is I go over the entire piece with the Decoupage gel. What that does is it not only seals the paper for the next step, but it also helps adhere it even better if you had any spaces on your paper where maybe the gel wasn't thick enough or something. And it also helps it wet as it dries to prevent any additional wrinkles from coming, and it helps eliminate any existing wrinkles. The next thing I'm doing is I'm using a very stiff putty knife that has a beveled edge, and I'm scraping off all of those little numpy bubs and bumpy nubs with that putty knife from the Saltwash that I threw on there that you saw me add between the layers of paint. What this does is it allows the pitch black paint to peek through the Farmhouse linen white, and you'll see it start to reveal itself here in just a second. The piece will have a lot of texture, and I'll show you in a second that I use my orbital sander as the next step, but you probably don't want to do that if this is the first time you've ever used a resist. What I would suggest you do is grab yourself a sanding block and wrap a piece of 120 grit sandpaper around that sanding block and use that and do it by hand. I've done a lot of pieces like this, so I know exactly when to start and where to start and when to stop. But as you're learning this process, you probably want to do it by hand so you don't over sand and then have to start all over again. So here I'm using my orbital sander with some 120 grit sandpaper and just kind of knocking off the rest of that roughness off of here so that it's smooth to the touch. Because even though you want texture, you don't want a rough feeling piece. You still want to be able to run your hand over it and have it feel smooth. And now I'm misting it with the misting bottle and wiping it down because there's still going to be some residual of the white salt wash, and you want to wash that away so that that black really reveals itself. And there you can see it. And I'm going to show you, there's the front that you can see it on, and it's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. You can see too that I painted over to the edges of the drawers. That's something I didn't show in this because it would have made the video way too long. It's already a long one, but we're on to the next step here. So this is the Crackle. This is the first step. The best secrets that I can share with you on success of applying the Paint Couture Crackle or any Crackle is, number one, apply it in one direction. Don't overwork it. And with the Paint Couture Crackle, it's super, super easy to use. If you want big cracks, the thicker you apply it, the bigger the crack you're going to get. The thinner you apply it, the finer the crack you're going to get. I know some Crackle companies make it so that you have to buy different formulas in order to get fine Crackle or normal size Crackle. That's not the way we work with Paint Couture. You can achieve various Crackle, and I like the various Crackle. It looks much more authentic and natural when you have various sizes of Crackle in your finish. So just again, one direction, don't overwork it, and then once it's applied, do not touch it. That's the 3 things that I can tell you that are the most important. After it's dried, it says 30 minutes to an hour, but I like to wait a minimum of an hour. Grab your step 2, which is really thick. It's like the thickness of molasses, and apply that over the step 1. And here I am using a synthetic brush, and I'm applying it. I mean, you can't help but apply this in a thick fashion because it is such a thick product. And you will probably use 2/3 more of this than you do of the step 1, just simply because the consistency of it. So I always have more step 1 than I have of step 2 when I'm done with a product. Once you get that all done and it's crackled, I let it sit typically overnight. I get my cracks and they're exactly the way I want them. I make my own glaze, or you can buy, Paint Couture has a variety of different glazes, but I like to make my own. So I buy the clear glaze and then I mix my own colors, and I prefer using espresso, which is a really beautiful dark brown. Here I'm mixing about 2 tablespoons of espresso with about maybe a 1/4 cup of the clear glaze and about a teaspoon of water just to extend it a little bit. And I'm putting that on again with a chippy brush. And I don't like to let it sit too long on this because I don't want to darken the image. I just want to get that glaze into the cracks. The longer you let your glaze set, the darker it will get. And I don't want my image to get darkened, so I'm wiping it back immediately. I just want it to embed into those cracks, which is perfect for what I want to achieve here. And I'll show you a close-up because I know you really can't see what's going on here too well on this viewpoint, but just so you can see how to apply it. And at this juncture, it doesn't really matter. You'll notice after the step 2 crackle, you'll have a really high gloss finish because it is a varnish finish. You wouldn't need to top coat it at that point. And the glaze itself is essentially a top coat. So once you wipe the glaze off, you wouldn't need to top coat it if you like that high shine finish. I like a matte finish, so I am going to go over this entire piece with my flat top coat, my Extreme Guard flat top coat, but you don't have to do that. But you can actually even see my brush reflecting on the finish of the metal on my brush reflecting on the finish of the front of this piece right now. It's got that high of a sheen on it. But once you go over it with the matte finish, you won't see the sheen at all. So there I'm showing you a close-up of that crackle, and you can see the variations in the size of the cracks, and it's achieved it beautifully. I love it. It's just fabulous. I love their crackle. It's the first thing that I ever tried from Paint Couture, and it's what made me start exploring other products that they offer and made me fall in love with the company. So the next thing I'm doing here is I am adding some of the Paint Couture Antiquing Glaze Lime Wash to the top of this piece that I actually removed the veneer from and went down to the, I believe it's just plywood top on. And I liked it better than the veneer top that was on it because I wanted that really kind of rustic look. This lime wash is a very unique product as far as I'm concerned. It has sort of a waxy feel to it, and I'm not applying it the way the instructions suggest that it be applied, where they suggest that you apply it and then wipe it back after a few minutes. I am literally almost dry brushing it on. I'm putting it on in a very thin fashion and just letting it stay on, but not putting it on in a thick coat. So I'm really happy with the finish and how it came out. It's a beautiful finish, and it's, like I said, it has almost a waxy feel to it. So I suggest you try it out if you like a lime wash look. It's different, it's unique, and I've never seen another product quite like it. I've tried other lime wash products that were much thicker and difficult to use. This was really simple to use, so check it out. Next, what I'm doing is, once that lime wash was dry, which didn't take long at all, is I grabbed a stencil, and I'm doing a tone-on-tone stencil with my roller and a mud cloth stencil that I have, using Driftwood, which is one of the Paint Couture colors. And I'm just doing a rollover on this. I wanted it to be a very subtle stencil image on the top, and you'll see once I'm all done how subtle it is. I mean, obviously when I pull the stencil away, you don't even see it. It's sort of what I call a ghost stencil. So you guys, you made it to the end. Yay! Thank you for watching. There's the stencil. And gosh, I appreciate you being here so much. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up, give us a follow, leave a comment. If you have any questions, let me know. And hopefully I will see you next time. And I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much for being here.